Welcome back, guys. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, straight game TV. I rarely would say this, but I told you what direction nigga was gonna try to move in. Most people don't understand this, but there's a lot more coming. Not only just from that perspective of the Foxy Brown situation, but yeah, I'm gonna wait for y'all to come up in here. Wait for y'all to come up in here. Jesse Garcia, what's happening? Yo, yeah, yup. Alex Lopez, what up? John Serrano, what's happening? Hey, John, we've been talking about this for a long time. Now they trying to get Foxy Brown. They told you they looking at that evidence. It's time to get the money. That's what Keffe D said that Zip told him, that it was time to get the money. Right? Now the prosecutors want Ingrid Marchand, aka Foxy Brown, to come testify against Keffe D based on the fact that she was in the car allegedly with Eric Von Zip. I tried to explain to people that if they're going to believe anything that Keffe D says, they have to believe all of what he's saying. And it was a two birds with one stone from that perspective, in the crime of opportunity that happened in Vegas on that fatal night. A lot of people not really peeping that or paying attention to that. But yeah. Because if you ask me, the fight with Orlando wasn't supposed to happen like that. It wasn't like a big grand plan. Most people think it was a grand plan. It was just, like I said, something that started from a street situation, and then the relationships that everybody had involved in that situation, right? Distinguished gentleman, JJ, what's happening? Illuminati TV, what's happening? So yeah, I told y'all before that if they gonna believe anything that Keffe D said, they gotta believe everything that he's saying. And so if I'm showing Puffy Combs right now, and I'm nervous, I'm real nervous, because the feds can come swoop in and get him for a murder for hire. If they putting all of these pieces together and Foxy Brown is willing to testify in this case, it could take her career to a whole nother level, but based on the fact that she was responsible for helping put Tupac's murderer, or somebody who was involved with Tupac's murder, in jail. She becomes a pivotal part in actually solving the crime. But will Foxy Brown testify is the big question, you know? Or will the big wigs, friends in the industry, people in the industry, get in her ear and be like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? But at this particular point in her life, we don't know what she will do. But more importantly, the prosecution is seeking her to testify against Keffe D. I don't believe it has nothing to do with the white Cadillac or anything other than that. It has to do, Keffe D has spoken so much. You got to understand, when he said what happened and him walking up to the car that Zip was in, he said that he saw Foxy Brown was sitting in the passenger seat, and Zip asked Foxy Brown to get out the car, right? This is in his book. In his book, he's been saying that, or in interviews, he was saying that, yo, pick up my book because it's nothing but the truth, right? We all know now that he's trying to say that that was a lie and he was only doing that for money. right? Yeah. But the crazy part about it, John Serrano, you not Foxy though. Um, and they're basically saying she's a central part of what that is, because she basically placed Keffe D at the scene in Las Vegas that night. But a little do most people know that they also have from what I understand, they did an investigation shortly after that, and they said that Keffe D was staying at the Monte Carlo. I don't know if you guys, they did an investigation shortly after that, that showed that Keffe D had rooms at the Monte Carlo that night. I don't know how true that is, but that is an official statement from the Las Vegas Police Department. Right? I did a video on that also a while back. Right? But basically, Ingrid DiCarlo, Marshawn, basically they're saying like, hey, she was in Vegas that night hanging out with Keffe D on September 7th, 1996, shortly before Tupac was hunted and gunned down. And basically, Keffe D's lawyer wants Keffe D's legal strategy is that he wasn't there in Vegas that night after, testifying 15 times on 15 different podcasts that he actually was in Vegas that night. Right? And so the question remains is, after giving all of these details, because remember, none of us knew anything about this is one of the situations. This is one of those situations like this. Like when I first went on the Art of Dialogue, we went on there and I was telling Art about the night at the Hollywood Athletic Club when Faith and Tupac met. Minus me saying anything about that, most people would have thought that Tupac was lying when he had said he had slept with Faith from that perspective, because there was no social media back then. You had to be around back then to really understand what I was talking about. Now, for me, I thought it was just simple. I ain't think that nothing of it. I thought it was just like, hanging out, party, you know what I mean? Hollywood Athletic Club, celebrities, Tretch, everybody was there. Tretch was dealing with Arnell Simpson, OJ Simpson's daughter at the time. She was there. I gave all of those details in reference to that situation based on the fact that Faith had put in her book things about Tupac that weren't actually true. Now, the details that I gave up, right, made it more plausible that it was true that what I was saying, right? And like I said, mine is Faith saying it in her book. Tretch has recently come forward and talked about that night, if you will. So now, in relation to the Keffe D situation, when Keffe D spoke about the night in Vegas, right? He spoke about hella details, if you will. There were hella details. And this is the part that when you go in front of a jury and they play the tape and they read the excerpts and they put the excerpts from the book up on the big board, showing what he had said in his book in regards to what Zip did. And so now you're forced to look at it from a different perspective. They said, well, damn, how would he? All she got to say was you in. They don't even really need her to say that she seen Keffe D. Were you in Vegas that night? Is all they have to ask Foxy Brown. Was she in Vegas that night? See, that's what most people don't understand. Foxy Brown don't have to say she seen Keffe D. She don't. All she got to do is say she was in Vegas that night. And were you with Von Zip? Yes, I was. Right? Now, we don't know if they got evidence. We don't know if they got any other corroborating evidence in regards to her actually being there. We don't know. We don't know if they walked through the MGM Grand. We don't know if, during that time, around about that time, everybody was in the MGM Grand and they got her on camera. We don't know that yet, right? Hypothetically. But the fact of the matter is, all they need to do is for her to say, yeah, I was in Vegas. Yeah, I was with Zip. Okay. So that makes then what Keffe D saying is true. But then if they go into the question, they say, well, did you see Keffe D? Did you know who he was? And so on and so forth. And she that's if she wants to testify. And she says, yes, it's a wrap. But like I said, they also do have evidence, from what I understand from the Las Vegas Police Department, saying that they have evidence and information that Keffe D was staying at the Monte Carlo that night. From that perspective, right? So it said, and basically her testifying, saying it would destroy Keffe D's defense. There's no evidence I was even there, which has been presented by his lawyer in recent weeks. You know, basically they're saying there's a lot of factors for Foxy to consider. Being in this trial would bring a lot of eyes to her and not necessarily present her in the right light. That's one thing, understandably so. Second, the characters she was socializing with back then had varied backgrounds and lifestyles, right? But she ain't never shied away from that. Her whole, rap career been, it's been real female-ish gangster, if you will. Another factor would be taking the stands means facing cross-examination, which could put her on the record and being asked about stuff that she had got in trouble with back in the day, if you will. I don't really think that's, because those things are behind her. I think more importantly, being looked at as a snitch, if you will. I think she probably would have a little bit more important, more concern with that. And then the people who still support her, who still are in her corner, reaching out to her saying, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. If they do call you, just plead the fifth or whatever, right? Yeah. But the interactions with Foxy Brown are being kept secret, basically, is what they're saying, in regards to the district attorney trying to get her to come and testify in regards to that situation. Now, I could say upside to this would be that she would help solve the Tupac murder. And not solve it in a way where she has to say anything that Keffe D didn't say already. You understand what I'm saying? She didn't bring Keffe D name up. Keffe D brought her name up. That's what I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to right now, right? Foxy Brown did not bring Keffe D's name up. Keffe D brought Foxy Brown's name up. And so when people would start to say, well, oh, she's snitching, oh, no. She didn't snitch on anybody. Somebody snitched on her. Somebody placed her in Vegas at the scene in the car in which Von Zip had a secret compartment, so Keffe D said, in which Von Zip allegedly gave Keffe D the gun that killed Tupac, right? So remember, it would not be Foxy Brown who would be snitching, right? Her name was brought up by Keffe D in the original proffer agreement in which he got with Greg Kading and the LAPD in the U.S. Attorney's Office. So we got to understand that for what that is, before people, because a lot of people like to go on and be like, oh man, she telling, Foxy Brown, X, Y, and Z. No. Foxy Brown did not ask to be involved in this situation. Her name was mentioned by Keffe D. So if anybody told on anybody or would be telling on anybody, Keffe D brought her name up in it. And not only did he bring her name up in it, but he put her name in his book. So this is the conundrum that Keffe D has placed himself in, and not only from that perspective, but dealing with the perspective of he's saying he wasn't in Vegas that night, right? This is all his saying, him telling on himself in the interviews that he's done, right? Basically, in his memoir, for the people who didn't read it, right? Keffe D basically noted that Foxy, who continues to perform across the world after her 90s chart success, was in Las Vegas the night Tupac died. He wrote that Foxy was present during a meeting with now deceased New York City socialite and party planner Eric Zip Martin. Davis wrote that Martin provided a gun to his gang friends, including his nephew, Orlando Anderson. Nobody can be blamed for what's going on right now but Keffe D. He told everything, and now all of a sudden, He did it for money. He did it for fame. He was lying to make money. Once he's been caught and held accountable for what he said that he did, right? Basically, Keffe D publicly claimed that his nephew used the Glock that Zip allegedly gave to them to kill Tupac during the drive-by shooting near the Las Vegas Strip, right? Keffe D in his autobiography, which prosecutors are tabling as evidence in the trial. So they right now are basically tabling pages in Keffe D's autobiography to be presented, right, at trial. This is gonna be, listen, man. If I don't think we've ever seen a situation like this ever before, where somebody wrote a book about the crime that they committed, thinking that they had immunity, only for that limited immunity to be squashed based on the person who was given the immunity speaking out when they weren't supposed to speak out, right? And so here we are. Keffe D's allegations in his autobiography, which prosecutors are tabling as evidence in the trial, are that Foxy Brown, the 1990s rapper who rapped with Jay-Z and numerous other people. I mean, and you know the funny part, because Ain't No Nigga, that the song that she did with Jay-Z was bubbling in and around that time, right? Yeah, back then, if you will, right? And she was pretty much new to the scene. She didn't do nothing solo, but that was like Jay's, first single. I wouldn't say hit single, but the one that put him on the map, right? Basically, Keffe D said that Foxy was in the car with Von Zip before he handed over the gun. In the chapter, The Main Event, the chapter in his book is titled The Main Event. Keffe D wrote that he met Martin Von Zip, who was with Foxy inside a high-end Mercedes Benz, right? See, that's what I'm saying. Not that Zip was just with Foxy, but what kind of car they were driving. Keffe D gave up a lot of details basically now, and basically to say he gave up too much information, details, to now say that, you know what, I was lying. I just did it for the money. You understand what I'm saying? Foxy Brown, Von Zip, what kind of car he was driving, all of those things, right? Not only that, Davis, he also wrote in plain detail, Keffe D wrote, as I walked up to the driver's side window, not the passenger side window, not to the trunk, not to the back of the car, from the side of the car. Keffe D wrote, as I walked up to the driver's side window, I noticed the rapper Foxy Brown was in the car with Zip. So he, Von Zip, instructed her, Foxy Brown, to step out of the car and motion for me to jump in, right? Zip had a hidden compartment. Not that he had the gun under the floor mat, not that the gun was in the glove compartment, not that the gun was in the back seat. Keffe D testified that Zip had a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in, and pulled a black 40 caliber Glock out. Pause. You see the nature of the detail that's given here, right? Keffe D went on. He turned to me and said, it's time to get the money. Now, what money are they talking about? Remember, Keffe D said he had met Puffy at Greenblatt's, right? Met Puffy at Greenblatt's, and Puffy said he wanted Tupac and Suge handled. So He's basically saying at this particular time, due to what happened in with Orlando and Vegas, that now it's time to get the money. What money? The $1 million for the hit, right? Keffe D then said in his book, Zip handed me the 17-shot pistol, not 12 shots, not 6 shots, not 3 in the clip and 2 in the chamber. He said 17-shot pistol, which I promptly put down in the back waist of my pants, not in the front, not in my front pocket, not in my sock. He's given explicit details. Zip handed me the 17-shot pistol, which I promptly put down the back waist of my pants. Right? I hop out the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. Pause. Listen, I want you to understand something, and I want you to understand this very clearly. If Foxy Brown chooses to testify against Keffe D, it would be nobody but Keffe D's fault. Foxy Brown is not to be held responsible for anything that she says in regards to this situation, because Keffe D put Foxy Brown in a peculiar place. Basically, putting her in the car with Zip when he didn't have to say anything in regards to her being there at all. But he chose to do that. So now, where would the prosecutions get this information in order to want to call Foxy Brown as a prosecution witness? They got it from Keffe D. They would have never known that if Keffe D wouldn't have said nothing. Right? I had been telling you guys that once again, if they believe anything that Keffe D says, they have to believe everything. And now they're going for that everything. The prosecution cannot come up into the courtroom and say, well, this part we believe to be true, but this part that we don't believe to be true. No, they can't say that, because then that basically leaves reasonable doubt. If he said one thing, everything that Keffe D says has to be true, especially dealing with his book and dealing with what he told Greg Kading them. That's what a lot of people understand, because they've been talking about, oh, Greg Kading them is this, that, and no. People, it's time people need to be responsible and accountable for their own actions, right? You can't blame nobody else. Greg Kading was a police officer. What was he supposed to do? Right? They were doing what they thought they were supposed to do, and there's no way on God's green earth, if they catch me for a crime, that I'm going to commit to a murder instead of a drug deal. I might be able to, like, even with the drug cases back then, even though he was facing 25 to life, it's a lot of people that have faced that kind of time, that have written the judge a letter. When Obama came in office, they passed laws and people, were able to get out, right? But no, Keffe D didn't want to do that time, so therefore he began to talk, and he basically admitted his involvement in the murder of Tupac Shakur. That's nobody else's but Keffe D's fault, and he's the one who's supposed to be held responsible for that. Nobody else, oh man, they trying to do this. It's the government trying to, no. The government didn't tell Keffe D to admit to anything. All of this spook, all of these conspiracy theories, no. Keffe D wrote it in his book. The government didn't tell Keffe D to write this information in regard to Foxy Brown being in the car with Zip, and Zip handing Keffe D the pistol and all of that. Keffe D chose to put that information out there and put it in his book, right? So that being with that said, I don't understand these alternate theories and things. Oh, it was the government. No. Because as you see right now, they're going after everything. They have to go after everything. They can't say that one thing is true and the next thing is not true, right? Keffe D said, I hopped out the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. He didn't say Little Kim. He didn't say Mary J. Blige. He didn't say the Lady of Rage. He didn't say MC Light. He said Foxy Brown. He was clear and concise about what he was doing, who was there, who was involved, and so on and so forth, right? Then Keffe D declared in his memoir and media interviews that his gang drove around Los Angeles hunting for Tupac, right? So not only did he admit to all of that, but then he doubled down in his book saying, yeah, and then we rode around Vegas hunting for him and looking for him. But now that he's been caught, Keffe D denies that he is responsible for Tupac's murder. All we know, like I said, tentatively right now, the trial date is set for November 4th, right? And Keffe D's lawyer, who wasn't there in Vegas, basically now is saying that his lawyer, Carl Arnold, basically maintains that Keffe D has lied about his entire involvement in the Tupac deaths to gain fame and earn money. Right? Now, you know what's going to be the key situation involving this. This is where they're going to call, or I believe they're going to call Vlad. I believe they're going to call Art of Dialogue. I believe they're going to call anybody who had anything with doing an interview with Keffe D, right? They're going to try to tabulate his book sales, and anybody who had anything with doing with paying Keffe D, right, to testify about how much money he made. Because see, now they put themselves, by the lawyer making this suggestion that he did it for money and fame, right? Okay. Well, he told Greg Kading them before he started to do everything for money and fame. He told them that he wasn't lying, and everything that said he said that at that particular time when he got the proffer agreement was true, right? This was before he did the interview with Vlad and all of them, right? This is around about 2009, 2008, 2009, right? So now, by that being what it is, how does he explain that part? Was he doing what he did with Greg Kading them for money and fame? You see what I'm saying? And I don't know how Carl Arnold, who they say is a well-respected attorney, I don't know how he get around that one. Because they're going to put a timeline on it. Everything comes with a timeline. They're going to say, well, hey, in 2008, had you done any interviews with Art of Dialogue? In 2008, did you do an interview with Vlad? In 2008 or 9, had you wrote the book? I don't know when the book came out. I didn't look at the copyright date of the book, but, they're going to put a timeline to this, right, to prove that he did not do it for money and fame. They're going to ask him, well, when you did the deal with the United States Attorney's Office, like you said in this video, right? Were you making this deal right here for money and fame? No, they're going to say he was doing it to try to cut a deal so they wouldn't go to jail. So you mean to tell me he copped out from a drug case to cop to a murder? Right? This is what's going to happen, and most people are not really paying attention. Like I could see, through this, and I know the prosecutor, but like I said, when you present evidence and do things in court, it's a little bit different from when you trying to get the public on your side, if you will, and trying to get them to believe or taint the jury or whatever they think that they're doing, right? Like I said, Keffe D's lawyer, Carl Arnold, maintains that Davis has lied about his entire involvement in the Tupac death to gain fame and earn money. And the question gonna be, when you gave the statement to Greg Kading, the LAPD, and the U.S. Attorney Office and the FBI, right? Did they pay you any money? No, right? So they're gonna deal with that. Everything else after that, okay, he could say that he did that, but then now they pull up the amount of money that was paid out to him, right? So now when you deal with the amount of money, if it was, let's say in all of those interviews, he made $50,000, right? The prosecutor is going to ask the jury. So he's basically wants us to believe that he committed to a murder. He admitted to a murder, the murder of Tupac Shakur, for $57,000. You understand what I'm saying? So this is where evidence will come in, right? Um, yeah, will come in to say, hey, this is what it is, and this is what it doesn't really matter how much money Greg Kading made. Greg Kading wasn't on trial for murder. Greg Kading wasn't involved in no. See, that's what I'm saying. The divert that's not gonna matter. That's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter at one bit. What they're gonna be focusing on is how much money, right? Right? How much money did Keffe D make if he's saying that he did all that he did for money and fame? They're gonna want to know the number, and they're gonna find out the exact number. Trust me, they will. And if it's not, if it doesn't look, if it's not in the high six figures, then they're not gonna believe him. So you mean to tell me for 30, hypothetically, I'm using these numbers as hypothetically. You mean to tell me for $32,000 you admitted to a murder? When you told Greg Kading and the U.S. attorney and the FBI a story for nothing, now you came out and doubled and tripled down on that same story that you told them. Now you saying you did it for money and fame when you told the original story to Greg Kading them for nothing? It's not gonna work. But now they've stepped into Foxy Brown. Not because Foxy Brown wants to testify, and people need to know that Foxy Brown did not agree to anything. Foxy Brown's name was mentioned by Keffe D. Keffe D implemented Foxy Brown's name, and the only reason why they know to go to try to get her to testify in the murder trial of Tupac Shakur is because Keffe D said her name. So people can't be like, oh, she a snitch. Oh, she did that. No, she ain't no snitch. Her name was brought up by Keffe D. Keffe D basically saying that, she might have known something about the Tupac hit, by being in the car with Von Zip. That's what that's kind of insinuating, right? Even though I don't believe that that's true, but that's what I'm saying is from that perspective, because it's best. But you can kind of infer that, okay, when she got out the car, when she got back in the car, and Zip allegedly could have told her, yeah, that's whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't believe that. But people would like to go and with their thoughts and things, they move in that direction, right? Keffe D's lawyers basically saying that prosecutors cannot convict his client based on his confessions alone and need corroborating evidence. Well, once again, that's going to be up for the jury to decide. I don't think that's going to be up to Keffe D's lawyer to decide. That's a great way to look at it, but at this particular time right now, that's not going to be up to Keffe D's lawyer. That's a great theory, right? But like I said, once again, then you go into Keffe D's track record, right? You go into his track record, his credibility, and all of those things, right? Nandy Johnston, no, they keeping it secret. They keeping it secret. You know what I mean? They won't say that whether she has or hasn't. The prosecution is basically keeping it secret at this particular time. They got a couple of more months, But like I said, once again, if Foxy Brown did choose to testify in the murder trial of Tupac Shakur on behalf of the district attorney, it would be no one's fault but Keffe D, because Keffe D placed her in Las Vegas, and he did not have to say her name at all. In his book, he basically went in deep, yeah. And so, this is where we are right now. This is where we are. But like I said once before, if they believe anything that Keffe D said, they have to believe everything that he said. And the story coincides. Listen, the story coincides not only with what happened in Vegas, but the story coincides with the $1 million bounty that Keffe D alleged that Puffy put on Suge and Tupac when they were at Greenblatt's in Hollywood. So in him telling this story in his book, it all adds up, if you will. But basically, Keffe D saying that, what, we never got paid. Now, there's a video that I just recently looked up, and I just wanted to see. There's a video with Gene Deal basically stating that Gene Deal said he's seen the name on the $1 million check. He said the $1 million was paid to Zip, if you will, right? He said the $1 million check was paid to Zip, if you will. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's true, but Gene Deal said that. Okay, cool. So now, listen. So do the prosecutors want to call Gene Deal too? Do the prosecutors want to call Gene Deal too? Because they have that video that was over on Vlad. Gene Deal said on Vlad TV, right, that he saw the $1 million check and the name who the $1 million check was made out to. Right? So now, will Gene Deal be called to testify also? This is going to get very interesting, man. This is going to get very interesting. Like I said once before, I told y'all you cannot have a court case where somebody makes lengthy statements like Keffe D has, write a book, and that be consistent with the statements that he gave to the prosecutors and the FBI and the LAPD, right? If you believe what he says in his book, on the Art of Dialogue, on Vlad, right? The Keffe D's lawyers saying that, oh, they can't just convict him alone on his word. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. And like I said, when they go into believing and having credibility and going what he said, you're going to go right back to that initial statement that he gave Greg Kading, the FBI and the U.S. attorney, when he wasn't getting no money and there was no fame involved. And he was the only thing he was trying to do was trying to get his freedom. And he he cut a whole R&B album, as we can see in his book, with the prosecutors for the proffer agreement and all of that. He sang some songs, you know what I mean, in regards to that when we talk about it from that perspective. Now, once again, it's time to get the money, right? And so that statement right there, and I'm gonna deal with that statement right there because he put it in his book. He put the statement in his book when he said when he walked up to the car, when he seen Von Zip, right? He's saying basically jail. Keffe D said that he gave the Zip gave the Glock to his nephew and the whole 9 yards, right? So basically saying Foxy Brown they were in the Mercedes Benz. The description of the car that they was in, while not specific about the location, it appears that the meeting happened at the MGM Grand Casino, close to the valet drop-off. Now, let's go back. Listen to me, man. They saying the incident where he got the gun from Von Zip happened near the MGM Grand Casino valet drop-off. If they got tapes from that night, like they got tapes from that night with Tupac and them running through the casino, right? See, we don't know all of that yet. That part right there. You understand what I'm saying? They basically said, not while he wasn't specific about where this situation happened. It appears, listen, it appears, I want y'all ain't listening to what they trying to give you, man. They trying to give you the information, man. They trying to give you the information, man. Listen to me. Did you hear what I just said? They say, while not specific, meaning Keffe D was not specific about the location and where Von Zip allegedly gave him the gun and they had the conversation, right? It appears that the meeting happened. It appears. How does it appear? It appears that the meeting happened at the MGM Grand Casino close to the valet drop-off. How they know that? Now, I'm asking y'all a question, man. How did they know that? that it appears to happen at the MGM Grand Casino close to the valet drop-off. How would they know that? Think they got video? Boy, if they got video over that, boy, good God Almighty. Whoo! Whoo! Now, man, look, because you know that the MGM has not changed since then, right? The valet drop-off, from what I understand, was the same valet drop-off that they had in front of the MGM for all of these years. And I'm sure most people would understand that, you know, if anything was going to go down at a casino, usually when people drive up, if any kind of like robbery was going to go down or whatever, that would happen. You know, you could pull up at the drop off or whatever. But the MGM, if you ever been to any fights at the MGM, which I have, right? You know what I mean? Namely, the Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, you see it on the back of the joint right there, right? So from that perspective, when you understand that, when you understand what that is, they're basically saying, while Keffe D was not specific about where the meeting between him, Von Zip, and where he's seen Foxy Brown happened at, it appears, and I don't know why it would appear, that the meeting happened at the MGM Grand Casino close to the valet drop-off. Wow. Basically, Keffe D says, I walked up to the driver's side window. I noticed that the rapper Foxy Brown was in the car with Zip. He instructed her to step out the car for a minute and motioned for me to jump in. Zip had a hidden compartment in the car, Keffe D said, that opened up. He reached in and pulled out a 40 caliber Glock pistol. He turned to me and said, it's time to get the money. So that basically says that the situation at Greenblatt's had already happened. It was already in motion. And for whatever it was time to get the money. Amazing. Yeah. And like I said, once again, people look for people to blame and, you know, no, the only person to blame for this situation is who? Keffe D. Keffe D basically told on his nephew. He told on Zip. He told on Foxy Brown. He told on everybody. Yeah. What's up, Range G4? But like I said, most people not really thinking about it from that perspective, man. When like I said, when people go over this video tomorrow, they don't understand. When they understand like what Keffe D actually put in his book and the things that he told Greg Cady and them, all of those things match up. He told on everybody. And the only person that Keffe D has to blame at this particular point is Keffe D. Right? Now, but see, this is the cold part. Now, see, he don't just tell about where he got the gun from. He said that Zip had the gun in a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in, pulled out a 40 caliber Glock. He turned to me and said, it's time to get the money. The money what? The money that he basically said that Sean Puffy Combs offered him to handle Suge and Tupac Shakur. Namely, after Tupac had hit him up, and he said that Puffy was scared at that particular time. This is what Keffe D said, right? Basically say Zip handed me the 17-shot pistol, not the 6-shotter, not the 9, not the 15, not the 12, but the 17-shot pistol, which I promptly put down the back of my waist of my pants. I hopped out the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. Keffe D said all of this in his memoir. Right? So now, as I've been trying to explain to people once again, if they believe one part about what he said about Greenblatt's, because he said that, and this is the key, listen to me, the reason why this is so key, and Keffe D's lawyers basically saying that he wasn't even Vegas, right? The reason why it's so key is because basically they're hoping that with that argument, because they don't really have anything else to stand on, with that argument that he wasn't in Vegas, is that something that will stand. And I'm thinking right now, based on all of this, um, um, this confessing and um, self-telling and self-snitching, or whatever you want to call it, testifying against oneself. This is one of those situations where when the alleged perpetrator is their own worst enemy at this particular point. Keffe D is his own worst enemy in regards to the things that he said and the people that he's implicated in this situation involving the Tupac Shakur murder charge. Like I told y'all, if I'm Sean Puffy Combs, I'm real nervous right now. I'm real nervous because basically Gene Deal said that he um, he's seen the $1 million check and said that the check was made out to Zip, if I'm not mistaken. On Vlad, he said, you can go over there and check the interview that he did with Vlad on, Vlad, you know what I mean, for yourself. And you can see that, right? Now they're trying to bring Foxy Brown in. Why? Because Keffe D said that she was in the car with Zip when Zip gave him the pistol that ultimately killed Tupac Shakur. This is amazing. This is amazing, right? And Keffe D's lawyers basically saying, you know what? He did it all for fame and money, right? And then you go back to the initial statement that he gave Greg Kading them. And there was no money involved. There was no fame involved. There was the only thing that was involved and on the line at that particular time was Keffe D's freedom, because he had been caught in a drug ring and thought that he should turn and become a government witness, which he did, right? He became a government witness, and they were investigating the murder of Biggie Smalls, right? Now you got some people out here saying that, well, they and this is speculation at best. People have said that, well, Keffe D, the reason why they was asking Keffe D whether he had something to do with the Biggie Smalls thing, right? And it, this is kind of Monday morning quarterbacking for a lot of people, is because they didn't pay him the situation or the money for killing Tupac. So they say Keffe D and them allegedly killed Biggie too. Which I don't know. I can't, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's true. Like I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But this is basically what they were saying, right? But what makes that plausible, what makes that situation plausible, is the fact that Keffe D admitted that he was at a celebrity basketball game with Sean Puffy Combs the night that Biggie was killed earlier that day. And for me, this is 7 months later after Tupac got killed, right? You know what I mean? This is now in 1997, right? In March of 1997, right? And so now, when we think about that, you got to think about it. If Keffe D didn't get his money for the Tupac situation within 6 and 7 months, and he see Puffy at this celebrity basketball game, does Keffe D ask Puffy for his money? Right? Then later on that night, Keffe D, this is all what Keffe D admitted to when he was asked, were you at the Peterson Automotive Museum? Keffe D said, yeah. And he talked about how he walked up to Puffy, and Puffy allegedly told him how that the feds was watching him or something like that he was hot and the FBI was on him or something like that, right? Now, was that a statement to saying to Keffe D, I can't get you the money right now because I'm being watched right now, right? And had Keffe D, got tired of the bullshit, you know what I mean, from that perspective, or felt like he was being he was being delayed from that perspective, so that it seems like a plausible situation. But when Greg Kading them got him for the other charge, the drug charge, he began to confess about the murder of Tupac Shakur, right? Suge Knight then comes in. He says, well, if you solve one murder, you'll solve both of them. Get it? Why would Suge say that? If you solve one murder, you'll solve both of them. That's the situation that makes that plausible, but still yet speculation. Well, like I said, we from all of the situation that goes on that's been talked about as of recently, we don't know. But I say that to say Keffe D said on the Art of Dialogue that he never was paid, but he was at the Peterson that night and he was at the celebrity basketball game earlier that day. And I can't help but think, if you hypothetically saying Keffe D and him saying that he met Puffy at Greenblatt's, the situation with Tupac went down. Keffe D then went on to say, if Puffy would have just gave me half of the money because Tupac got killed, but Suge still lived, if he would have gave me just half of the money, this is Keffe D's word. Keffe D said, if he would have just gave me half of the money, I would have stayed strong and I would have kept my mouth shut. That's what Keffe D said. So now they're trying to bring Foxy Brown into the court now, because Keffe D said also her name, Foxy Brown. I didn't know Foxy Brown was in Las Vegas until Keffe D said something. You know, we didn't know Zip was in Las Vegas. We didn't know where the gun came from. We didn't know who shot Tupac, according to Keffe D, because he said he was there. We didn't know any of this information until he sat down with Greg Kading them. So like I said, this is going to be interesting. Well, it doesn't matter. Hey, Outlaw Josie, it doesn't matter whether she says she don't have to answer any questions. Let's be clear. Foxy Brown don't have to answer any questions, right? You know what I mean? From that perspective, she can, plead the fifth. But like I said, they basically saying that while not specific, about the location, it appears that the meeting happened at the MGM Grand Casino, close to the valet drop-off. Now, how would they know that? So they got to know something. Not only that, you know what I mean? If you go back over the records for those years, a lot of those hotels have data and receipts, stemming from years and years and years, right? So you can only try to guess whether they have the information. A lot of times prosecutors really and investigators don't really ask questions that they don't already have the answers to. And a lot of times they try to trip you up. But like I said, she don't have to answer any questions. But like I said, if it wasn't for Keffe D, she wouldn't even be, we wouldn't even be considering her having to come testify if it wasn't for Keffe D. If he would have just kept his mouth shut, he would have been good from that perspective. You understand what I'm saying? All of this stuff right now, all of what's going on right now is basically self-imposed by Keffe D himself. He can't blame nobody but himself. And so this is what we had. And so we're gonna see, within a couple of months, November 4th, mark it on your calendars. The trial of Tupac Shakur, involving the murder of Tupac Shakur, starts in a Las Vegas courtroom, and the prosecution say they're getting their witness list together from that perspective, right? And best believe, there are going to be some surprises. So, I don't think they did all of this work in charging Keffe D, not only based on the things that he said, but on the based on the things that they can corroborate, if you will. And so we're going to see what happens, man. I thank y'all for tuning in. Your boy DELRAY. Straight gang.